Good morning and welcome to this introductory talk on the Business CTECH course. If you've got any questions from this, if you make sure that you email the subject lead, Miss Ferguson, or you can follow her on a Twitter account, which I'll share with you at the end of this talk, and you can ask any questions there. Likewise, if you've got any specific queries regarding CTECH and the differences between A levels, and if it's not been made completely clear, then you can contact Miss Ferguson as well. So, as I've just alluded to, the course that we offer for business at OSH is perhaps different to some of the other local providers in the fact that we offer a OCR Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate. So this is different to an A-level course. It's akin to a BTEC, a single BTEC award. And in terms of how it's delivered, it's got more coursework or traditional coursework components compared to the new A levels. So the reasons why we chose to do this particular course is we feel as though it has greater relevance to the real world and to employment because it has regular assignments that are due in and students need to meet those particular demands. It also offers a good complement to A-level courses, and it means as well that some of our students that do business alongside A-level qualifications, when it comes to their summer exams in year 13, they don't have anything else to do for their business, so it means that they can concentrate on their other two subjects. So the business course is made up of 5 units. The first 3 are mandatory. So the first one is the business environment exam, the second is the business resources exam, the fourth module is customers and communication, so that's an assignment based project, and then the 2 optional units that OSH have selected are the marketing and market research assignment and the introduction to human resources assignment. So you can see that the options that we've selected are 1, 2, 4, 5 and 8. And if you go on the Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate page, if you type that in onto your search engine, you'll be able to see the other modules, but also you'll find specific details about each particular one. Now the assignments are internally assessed, so they are marked by your teachers and then they're standardised at the very end of the 2-year cycle, and the examinations are written exams, and they are examined externally. A lot of people have this question when they're faced with this Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate. They want to compare it to an A-level course. Now that's quite natural if you're looking to apply for universities and you're looking to apply to higher and degree apprenticeships. So the qualifications that you can get from the Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate are Distinction Star, Distinction, Merit and Pass, and the UCAS tariff points that you get from those are akin to other grades. So a Distinction Star is equivalent to an A star, a Distinction is equivalent to an A Merit is equivalent to a C, and a Pass is equivalent to an E grade. So you can see that the only difference is that there aren't grade equivalents for a B grade and a D grade. But in terms of how they're viewed by universities, we have students that go to Russell Group universities that do the Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate course, and it's no disadvantage to them. So the first module is the exam that students take at the end of year 12, and this is the business environment exam. It's a 2-hour exam, it's 90 marks, and there is a research theme that is given out 10 weeks before. So even before the start of the examination itself, there is information that's provided to the students so that they can prepare accordingly. The content of that exam mainly focuses in on the types and the structures of businesses, so ownership, objectives, functions of a business, but also the legal, financial, ethical and resource constraints. And as I've said already, we'd really recommend that you go online and you have a look at the OCR Cambridge Technical Extended Certificate page so that you can have a bit of an idea about maybe some things that you've already got some current knowledge on. The second examination module covers business resources, which is essentially how to communicate effectively with stakeholders, so arranging meetings, working with business documents, making payments and prioritising activities. Now this particular module can be quite useful for students that are doing other A-levels or other BTECs because it actually gives you the means to organise your own time. Now the first module is covered in an exam at the end of year 12. And this particular examination, so business resources, this is done in January of year 13. So the 2 exams are spaced out and then not delivered at the very end of year 13. That means that students can then focus in on their other subjects, so their A-levels at that particular point. But what students can do for Units 1 and 2 is they can resit. So if they're not happy with the grade that they got from their examination, they have the opportunity to resit, which is quite novel for the CTECH course compared to A-level qualifications. Now, those particular modules are the examinations, and it's quite clear how students will be marked on that. Essentially, their performance will correlate with distinction star, distinction merit, and pass. The remaining 3 modules are assignment based, and those particular units have grading criteria for pass, merit, and distinction. Now, in order to get distinction star, you need to ensure that you've got a significant proportion of your marks being a distinction, and that your examinations as well are at a distinction star level. Now, the assignments are broken up into 3 different components. So we have pass grade work, so pass assignments, merit assignments, and we have distinction assignments as well. So the 3 modules, the 3 units that I'm just going to be talking about next, they have pass, merit, and distinction level work. And in terms of how students can showcase this pass, merit, and distinction based work, they need to present evidence. So for each of the following assignments, portfolios of evidence need to be provided by the students. Now, the ways in which they're done is they can be done in a variety of different test styles, so it won't all be the same. It won't all just be in essay format. There might be observation of practice, there might be questionnaires or questioning the learners, there might be specific tasks that have been set by the teacher, there might be a simulation of an activity or a simulation of a particular practice. And the evidence that students can submit can be in a variety of different forms. It doesn't just have to be in written format. It can be in photograph form, DVDs, digital recordings, and CD digitally formatted documents. So it is quite a comprehensive process, and essentially the more that you put in and the more evidence that you can provide, the more likely it is that you'll be getting those very top marks. So that portfolio that I've mentioned there, that's your responsibility as the student. It's your responsibility to develop your own work. Your tutors will be telling you what you need to be perhaps developing, and they'll give you specific advice about what needs improving. But it's really important that from the start of the Year 12 course that you have clear presentation of work, that you're well organised with the portfolios for each individual assignment, because if evidence contributes to more than one assessment criterion, then it should be cross-referenced, and then it's made clear. It's useful as well because you'll have routine deadlines for the 3 assignments throughout your 2 years of study. So the first assignment-based module that you'll have to cover is customers and communication. Now that's the mandatory one that you have to do, and really for that particular module we're looking at why customers are important to a business and how we can effectively communicate with those particular customers, that particular stakeholder group. Now that unit consists of 5 separate assignments. Now within those 5 assignments we've got 10 pass tasks, 4 merit tasks, and 2 distinction tasks. So you can see that it's not just one big deadline that's being set by your teachers, it's going to be lots of deadlines throughout. So rather than having for an A-level course essay and homework and prep, all of the work that you'll be doing for the business course will go towards your final mark. So it's really important that you hit the ground running at the start of Year 12. Now, the other 2 assignment-based modules are ones that have been selected by Mrs. Westwood and Miss Ferguson. And the first is marketing and market research. That's largely because we have a lot of students that end up choosing to do marketing as an undergraduate course, and it's something that a lot of people want to go into. Now, that's really to explain the role of market research, how that contributes to decision making from businesses. And what students need to do again is to complete 3 assignments, and those are broken up into 8 pass tasks, 3 merit tasks, and 2 distinction tasks. As part of this particular module as well, students will have to carry out market research, so they'll have to analyse specific businesses of their choosing, analyse the market research, and present their findings. So if anyone's particularly interested in going into advertising and marketing, it's a very useful module for them. And the final module is about Introduction to Human Resources. Human resources is something that everybody will have to deal with no matter what kind of line of work you go into. So as a teacher, we have a responsibility to have a certain degree of understanding of how human resources function. And to get this knowledge at A-level standard, particularly for me, would have been really useful rather than having to learn it as my career progressed. We'll be looking as well in this particular module, and it's a really interesting component of it, about motivation and training of employers. Understanding how motivation works, understanding how leadership strategies of different key employers might work is also quite useful for our A-level and BTEC students, because what they're able to do is they're able to take that theory and apply it to their own practice. That unit consists of 5 assignments, and again, they're broken down into 10 past tasks, 3 merit tasks, and 2 distinction tasks. So for all of the modules that you're doing, all 5 modules, you have regular routine support from your teachers throughout. There are no subject-specific requirements to study the CTECH business course, but you must meet the school's minimum entry requirements of the 7 pass grades. The desirable traits, however, are the ones that are really going to make the difference between getting the very, very top marks for the business course. And if they're not quite there at this particular moment, by the end of the CTECH qualification, you will certainly have these particular traits or competencies. So firstly, having an interest in business and an interest in a number of key businesses and notable businesses in the world would be advantageous. But you will have to research independently. You will have to work on your assignments away from the classroom as well, so it's not all done in the classroom. You will have constant deadlines that are being set for your small assignments and your small briefs, so it's really important that you have that motivation, that self-discipline, and that organisation to meet those deadlines. There will be certain questions that will be extended reports, so it's useful for you to go over any extended essay writing that you've done at GCSE level, and being ICT proficient is advantageous as well, because the presentation of your materials, the presentation of your work, it is going to have an impact on the overall marks. So if you're relatively IT competent, that is an advantageous skill. In terms of pathways for the business course, well, obviously you can go into any walk of life. Every single job to a certain degree has a business component, and having the particular skills that you get from the mandatory modules and the optional modules will give you an advantage. But just to give you a bit of a flavour about what some students have combined business with, we've got Ollie, Josh and Dan who left the school last year, and you can see that they've combined it with a whole host of different subjects. Geography and business go together particularly well, particularly the human side of geography. Business and economics goes together quite well. There used to be this thing a few years ago where they said that they didn't want students to do business and economics together. That doesn't really seem to be the case, and I can't think off the top of my head of any university that says that you can't do business and economics as a combination. But you can see as well that we've got Dan who did French alongside his business studies. We've got Ollie who did classical civilization. It's not necessarily the case that you have to combine business with a certain number of subjects. This past year we've had students that have done BTEC sport with business. We've had students that have done history with business. There isn't necessarily a set pattern, and business is one of those subjects where it'll be universally looked at as advantageous. Now, we've got summer work that is expected of students over the course of the next few weeks, and we've got the essential bridging task that we need to do. So let's start off by looking at the GCSE material. Because not everyone will have done GCSE business, it's not necessarily the case that we can ask all students to go over their notes at GCSE level. If you have done it at GCSE level, obviously look over the notes that you've got for that. That will be a help for when you start in September, and now that you know what modules there are, you might want to look specifically at, for example, market research and marketing. But if you haven't done that, you can log on to Seneca and you can look at the Business AQA GCSE course. It's obviously not the one that you'll be studying for the CTECH qualification, but it will give you that basic grounding in areas that perhaps you don't have any grounding in at this particular moment. The activities that you've got there that are about a mind map, and that comes from Mrs. Ferguson, and actually that particular activity is really just to get the basics done for you. So if you don't really have that much of a grounding in business at all, then we would suggest that you have a go at that particular activity, and there's some links at the bottom there which can help you out as well. Now, broadening your subject horizons for A-level study, and particularly over this summer period, is going to give you a certain advantage, particularly for when you're looking at the initial module that you're studying. Now, we could say at this particular point, watch this podcast, watch this BBC video, read these articles from these particular newspapers, and to a certain extent, we're doing that for a lot of the A-level subjects. But what's great about this past month is that Mrs. Ferguson has organised a Twitter account. So if you search for @BizEconOSH, or type in OSH Business and Economics Mrs. F, you can find that there's a Twitter page that Mrs. Ferguson has organised, and she's populating it with reading that you can be doing over the summer. So there are current articles that relate to current business affairs. So rather than having to go in lots of different places, if you go onto that Twitter account, you can find all the reading that will help you for the summer period. So those previous two things are expected. If you're looking to make a good start to Year 12 study, we would expect you to do that. But the essential tasks are the bridging tasks. So the middle task is the one that you must do, and the ones around the outside are the optional ones, and you should be choosing two. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to select a business, and you need to write a 500-word essay. So that's a page of writing. A 500-word essay sounds like a lot. It's just a page on what customer service they provide and why you think customer service is important. Now, what I would say is a bit of a hint for that one is speak to family members. Speak to family members that perhaps work with local businesses or work in businesses in Birmingham or Wolverhampton or Dudley, and try to get them to give you a basic grounding, so you can interview them, you can find out more. That would be a really advantageous approach to start off with. Alternatively, you could find one online. The problems perhaps of that is you won't necessarily get that contact to give you an impartial view perhaps, or a less biased view, because if you're looking at the internet pages of customer services for certain businesses, well, it's obviously going to present it in a certain light. The other activities that you can do, and I'll start in the top left hand corner, you can focus in on profit is more important than cash flow. So that would be a half a page report on whether or not you agree with that statement. You could look at some motivational theorists, and you could produce some fact files. If you're looking for the one that's really important there, Abraham Maslow, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Whatever walk of life you're going into, you'll know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so it'd be useful if you've got that knowledge before you start the business course. You could write a letter to Boris Johnson explaining your view of an increase in national insurance rates paid by employers and an increase in corporation tax. That would give you a grounding in terms of those definitions of national insurance rates, corporation tax. Again, key definitions that are going to help you out for Year 12 study. You could produce a mind map on the positives and negatives on the environment of business production. So you might again want to focus in on a specific sector. You might even want to focus in on a specific country, for example. An interesting example, if you're looking at the effects on the environment, might be Brazil. A really emerging economic power, but the way in which they're approaching their businesses is quite unusual, and you might want to look at Petrobras as well, and the scandal of a few years ago. You might want to look at producing a timeline showing technological developments and explaining how they've impacted on business and employees. There's a really interesting debate about the differences between the Industrial Revolution in the West compared to the Eastern world, and you might want to look at what kind of particular manufacturing products or what kind of inventions have really progressed the business world. So an interesting one to maybe focus in on is glass, which is a technology that has quite a bit of history in the Western world, or the traditional Western world, and there's quite a few good articles about how much the production of glass, which is obviously has got close links to Stourbridge, had a real impact on the development of businesses, particularly in England. You could also use appropriate data and examples and explain the impact on business and employees of UK employment legislation. Legislation means the creation of laws and the passing of laws, and it might be useful for you to look at certain major notable employment pieces of legislation. So for example, if you want to, for that particular task, look at the 2010 Equality Act, that would be a really good example for you to be aware of, that you could use again and again in different assignments. You could watch a business-based TED Talk. If you haven't looked at TED Talks before, there's a whole host that you can watch. There's some excellent ones on motivation as well, so if you want to combine that with the top-middle activity, that might be a useful exercise to do. And finally, you can produce an overview of the pestle factors that can affect businesses. You've seen a slide already in this particular video of pestle. I'm not going to go through what they are. It's an important definition for you to get for your modules, particularly one module, in particular one of the examinations, that examination 1. So it would be useful for you to have a look at that as well. If you've got any questions, as I've said already, if you contact Mrs. Ferguson using the email that's been provided, likewise you can contact me. And if you've got any other questions about the CTECH course, have a look online first, see what you can from the OCR website. If there's anything that's confusing, please just ask us a question. What we'd suggest that you do is, whilst you're waiting for the next video, have a look at some of those, have a look at the Twitter account, have a look at some of the reading that's been provided there, and maybe just bookmark a few of the pages. Thank you very much.